On the 26th of July, 2017, C-5 451, a 1970 C-5A Galaxy, landed at Travis Air Force Base for the last time. The plan was to make a static display parked next to the Golden Bear to preserve the history of the C-5. As we'll see today, things didn't turn out that way. How did we get from this to this? Let's look at the history, current status, and legacy of Dead Fred. The C-5 Galaxy, a military transport aircraft built by Lockheed, is one of the largest and most significant aircraft in aviation history. With its massive size, heavy cargo capabilities, and versatility, the C-5 has been a cornerstone of the United States Air Force logistics operations for decades. A total of 81 A models were built from 1966 to 1970. From 1983 to 1987, an additional 50 B models were built. The B model is the same basic airframe with reliability and maintainability improvements. Two of the A models, 68213 and 68216, were converted to C models by removing the aft troop compartment to allow for loading even larger space cargo. In the early 2000s, Lockheed began the process that would turn the B models, plus both C models and two A models, 6916 and 6924, into M models with advanced avionics and greatly improved engines. 451 was delivered at Charleston Air Force Base in 1972 before being transferred to Travis Air Force Base the following year, where it remained until 1992, when it transferred to Lackland Air Force Base in the 433rd Airlift Wing in Texas. During its career, 451 was involved in numerous high-profile missions, including Operation Nickel Grass in Israel, the U.S. Air Force's airlift operations during the 1973 Yom Kippur War. Between October 14th and November 14th, 1973, Military Airlift Command's C-5s and 141s airlifted over 22,000 tons of materiel into Israel. The C-5 flew 145 of the 467 missions, but delivered over half the cargo. The C-5 averaged 73 tons per flight, including outsized cargo like howitzers, cannons, M60 and M48 battle tanks, CH-53 helicopters, and McDonnell Douglas A-4 Skyhawk fuselages. In the early 1990s, 451 participated in Operation Deep Freeze, the annual resupply of the National Science Foundation's scientists deployed to the South Pole. The mission, made possible by an air refueling from a KC-10, delivered 72 passengers and 84 tons of cargo, including two UH-1 helicopters. In 1998, 451 survived a stall and near crash while on approach to Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean. In night instrument conditions, the crew was 20 hours and 35 minutes into their augmented duty day. During the final approach fixed level off, the crew became distracted by a slat malfunction, which initially rendered the stall warning system inop. The loss of airspeed and increased deck angle went uncorrected until the aircraft was in a full stall. The next few seconds were critical. Had it not been for the assertions from the other pilot and the flight engineer, the aircraft certainly would have impacted the water. Fortunately, the crew broke the stall and recovered 775 feet above the water and only seconds before impact.
Yeah. CRT. Put CRT in. Yeah, you got more power available to you. Put the nose down. Watch the temperature. You're climbing. Put the nose down. Put the nose down. You got altitude to work with. You got altitude to work with.
Okay.
What was that?
God knows. All right, we have speed.
Once 451 arrived at Travis Air Force Base, we began making plans to move the aircraft to the field across the street from the Golden Bear. Tail number 8088, the Golden Bear, was the first operational C-141 and the first 141 assigned to Travis Air Force Base. There was only one possible route to move 451 into position. Unfortunately, due to the C-5's 222-foot 9-inch wingspan, it was not possible to take the same route that was used to move the Golden Bear into position. The 141 was moved through the museum parking lot. The C-5 would need to cross over a 7-foot cinder block wall and over a ridge line that raised from 4 feet to 12 feet in elevation. The base hired an engineering company to design a ramp. The ramp had to be wide enough to handle the 37-foot 6-inch landing gear width, strong enough to support the 375,000-pound empty weight of a C-5, and long enough to keep the slope angle below the maximum tow angle to keep the aircraft from grounding on the ridge as it crossed the crest. The total cost estimate to remove the cinder block wall, build the ramp, and prepare the pad for parking the aircraft came to $1.4 million, effectively killing the plan for the display. For the next several years, Air Mobility Command, Air Force Material Command, and Travis Air Force Base went back and forth on what to do with 451. While the arguments went on, Travis Air Force Base turned the aircraft into a source of supply for the struggling C-5 logistics train, cannibalizing part after part to support the rest of the fleet. Eventually, the decision was made to chop up the aircraft, but cutting her up wouldn't end the usefulness of 451. The new plan was to cut out the forward and aft loading systems, including the visors and ramps, the flight deck, the cargo floor, and use these pieces to create a Loadmaster fuselage trainer. The companies Semstar and Newton Design were contracted to cut out the needed pieces, ship them to Oklahoma, just east of Tulsa, and build the trainer. With a lot of aircraft remaining, Travis began looking at ways to preserve and honor the legacy of 451. We reached out to Dave Hall from Moto Art to begin discussions of using some of the aircraft skin to create plane tags. After coordinating with Air Mobility Command, who officially owned the aircraft at this point, an agreement was made to allow Moto Art to harvest some of the skin. These tags will help preserve the legacy of 451 for years to come. The Moto Art team moved at an incredible speed, cutting out segments of skin and leaving behind an eerie Hulk. While Moto Art is not sponsoring this video in any way, because a portion of the proceeds for the sale of the plane tags goes to support the Travis Air Force Base Museum, I'll put a link where you can purchase tags in the description of this video. Even in this disassembled state, 451 continues to be a source of parts for the rest of the fleet, including landing gear parts and panels. Soon, a contract will be awarded to cut up and scrap the remaining parts of the aircraft, ending the decades-long legacy of C-5 451. While it will be good to get the parking spot back, in many ways we'll all miss Dead Fred, the gift that keeps on giving. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like and share this video. If you feel I've earned it, I'd appreciate a subscription. Thank you for your time.